We're talking with Patrick Howley from Big League Politics. Patrick, welcome back to the program. Good morning.
Hey, Pat. Good morning. Great to be here.
Hey, what do you make of this whole O'Reilly thing, the $32 million? I mean, CNN, they quit covering Trump this weekend just to get on this. What's this all about? What do you know?
Well, look, I really never found Bill O'Reilly to be all that interesting, and honestly, I think Tucker does a much better job in the 8 o'clock slot. I didn't really like O'Reilly's attitude, the whole holier than thou, I'm not right or left kind of thing. It's like, whatever, dude, so I wasn't really in his target demo. But when it comes to the sexual harassment thing, I think this is a very dangerous precedent because you've got women coming out of the woodwork years later.
Right.
And nowadays, sexual harassment is almost anything. It's like the cool thing to do for women to claim, oh, well, this guy came on to me 10 years ago, and now I'm so offended I can come back. And now there's a precedent where they can get a tremendous amount of money and their name in the headlines. Now, Harvey Weinstein was taking it to another level and doing actual quid pro quo.
Yeah, but wait, Patrick. Yeah, but you got to wait, though. Weinstein's, he's cured. He spent a week there. He's all good again. He's ready to go back.
Oh, yes, that's right. He's been cured. He did his sex rehab. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. No, Weinstein's a real pig, a real rat. I don't really know the nature of the O'Reilly thing, but, I've heard many, many, many stories. And, the guy was married, first of all, for most of his career while this stuff was going on. So, meanwhile, claiming to be...
Well, wait a minute. You make it sound like that's a bad thing.
Well, I mean, if you're going to claim to be, Lawrence Welk and you're Mr. Moral America, it's just hypocrisy. And I can always tell the guy was a hypocrite on that stuff.
Yeah, it's a strange tale of it. The weird thing is they just let him back on they knew all this. They let him back on the network like 2 weeks ago on Hannity's program. What's up with that?
Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, he got great ratings for them for a long time.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't diminish from the success he's had. But, I think this is a dangerous precedent because you have women who, come on to men or flirt with men in order to get opportunities and get jobs, which happens all the time in television.
But by the way, that spawned the hashtag last week, Me Too. And apparently now, I'm reading some of this stuff that's being put out there. Now, I guess the rule is that if a woman says no to you once, that's it. So... I'm thinking of people that I know that maybe the first time they approached their wife, it was a shutdown. They came back a second, third time, finally said yes, and they wound up getting married. But now I guess the new rule is one no, you're out.
Right, which applies to the Clintons as well. She turned them down 3 times, allegedly, according to their fairy tale story that they tell people. But, which is, I think they met some kind of reptilian cave, actually. But... No, look, I mean, this is a dangerous precedent because, you flirt with someone and then 10 years later they can extort you for money. And, it's happening all the time. It's happening more and more. And, men are really on the front lines of battles all over the place, especially in college campuses where you have fake rape threat accusation after fake rape accusation, the whole mattress girl thing. And then it turns out that the guy probably didn't even do anything. So, it's a very confusing time. And for some reason, the elites want us to be sexless. They just don't seem to want us to be having sex with each other for some reason. And we can only assume why. Maybe they want to keep our reproductive capabilities down in the modern world. I don't know.
We're talking with Patrick Howley from Big League Politics. Let's get to the Vegas shooting. Weird. We're 3 weeks out now. We still don't know 21 days. Jack squat about the shooter, his motivation, what was going on. Did you happen to see this weird, really weird interview with Jesus Campos on Ellen DeGeneres? Did you catch that?
Yeah, it's absolutely totally scripted. I don't even know if Jesus Campos was necessarily there, but he's being presented as the Latino hero against the evil angry white man who snapped. Right? It's so perfect. We have 2 amateur photographs of this alleged shooter, and we have shots allegedly being fired, according to witnesses, all over the place, and none coming from the 37th floor. So, I think it's very clear that that something else happened here. And in fact, InfoWars had a video yesterday showing how there were bodies being taken out of the Hooters, which is a couple blocks away, and being put into ambulances, and that was never reported. But meanwhile, there were eyewitness reports from that night saying that shots were fired in that Hooters 2 blocks away. So something happened here, and I doubt very, very, very much that this guy Stephen Paddock was involved.
You know what bothers me with this story right now? Remember how the Democrats in particular were real gung-ho on going after the guns right after this? All of that's all of that's dropped, and it's like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? What could possibly be involved here that would have them drop the gun narrative? Because this is perfect for that. But all of a sudden, they're not doing it anymore. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I think you're definitely going to see ISIS involvement, and definitely deep state involvement. The witness who fingered the alleged shooter is an Iraq War Army guy. Very possibly, obviously nothing wrong with that, but very possible that he's still in the deep state. You have Jesus Campos, who his story doesn't even make any sense. The Ellen interview was like one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in my entire life.
I want to talk about that for a minute, okay? Because you've got 2 allegedly key witnesses, right? And you mean to tell me the FBI is going to, on an ongoing investigation, the FBI is going to let them go on Ellen's show to do their one and only interview? And why is the FBI allowing MGM to control the narrative in the nation's biggest mass shooting?
Absolutely right. And the owner of that hotel, MGM, was a big donor to various democratic causes. This is very clear to me that something else is going on, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if this was a staged event. Because that happens all the time, and the fact that we have 2 amateur photographs of the guy.
You think this? Think this was staged? What do you mean by that? I mean, the people that were killed were real. The people that were wounded were real, right?
Right. But in terms of who the shooter was and what the motivation was,
I just don't buy that this guy is 64 years old. He had mobility issues, no prior military training or experience. You want me to believe that this guy pulled this off on his own? I can't. It stretches the limits of one's imagination. In fact, Patrick, I need to send you a story after the show today, and send me an email or a text. Remind me. We got a story out of it's the J Middle School, Oklahoma. We've got a comprehensive sex ed program aimed at kids in the 7th and 8th grade. And some of the things they're promoting the 4 kinds of sex. I bet you didn't know there's 4, including mutual masturbation. But the thing that's got parents livid is they're promoting anal sex to 7th and 8th graders. I got to send you the story because it really needs to get some national attention. We've blown it wide open here on the Pat Campbell Show. So, yeah, but what's going on, though? I mean, they're pushing this inclusiveness even in the Halloween parades. What's that all about?
Yeah, I mean, I think they just kind of want to destroy everything, These are people who make their living off of being offended and finding new things to be offended by. If you've been on a college campus recently, there's no actual learning that goes on. It's a bunch of people sitting around, and their project as graduate students is to continuously find new things to be offended by in order to expand the only subject that they actually teach, which is so-called social justice. And they just have to keep finding more and more things. There aren't enough things to justify the fact that every single college campus only teaches one thing. It's absolutely awful what colleges do, and I think that honestly, colleges and higher education are the most destructive force in our society now, even more so than the media, in terms of the way they leave kids in debt and the way they just inculcate our children against America, and against just being a human being with a sense of humor. I think the Anne Frank thing is completely distasteful, but, there's nothing wrong with a Native American costume. There's nothing wrong with, funny costumes. I'm going to send you some. I'm going to send you some pictures of the Native American costumes.
I think you will be offended. I want to get to George Bush, though. What's amazing is Bush gave a speech last week, okay, around the same time Obama did, the media cherry picks what they pulled out of the Bush speech. This is the same media that hated George Bush for 8 years. All of a sudden, he's their guy, and they're hyping him because, well, now apparently he's taking a shot at Trump. What's your take on this?
It's completely hypocritical, and it shows how morally corrupt they are. The entire mainstream media went left to an absurd degree and became hyper-partisan, specifically in order to oppose George W. Bush. If you remember, back in 2004, that's when Media Matters started. That's when a lot of this progressive nonsense started, all these organizations, Center for American Progress, right? And the media just went completely and utterly anti-Bush in order to stop him. And now it's like that never happened because he's criticizing Trump. Now, Bush, who was a big government guy, increased spending like his presidency was a complete and utter disaster. And, he is now coming out against President Trump because President Trump is the enemy of the deep state. And George W. Bush was a deep state guy and still continues to be a deep state guy, just like Obama. So Bush wouldn't criticize Obama for 8 years when Obama was attacking the Constitution, turning us into a banana republic. That was fine. But Trump, who is knocking out regulations, cutting taxes, doing more conservative things than anybody since Reagan, and I would argue even more so than Reagan in terms of what he wants to do. Now, Bush is the darling of the media for coming out against that. I'm very glad that low-energy Jeb was defeated, and that the Bush crime family is no longer anywhere near the nuclear buttons.
Yeah, it's time for that. Okay, I want to get back to something I started with, though, the story with the Clintons and the Obama administration and the uranium deal. We had our Senator Lankford on Face the Nation talking about the fact that several Russians have been arrested for trying to influence, not Trump, the Clintons with the Uranium One deal. Gee, I didn't see that on CNN, Patrick.
Yeah, and they succeeded in influencing the Clintons. I mean, ask Bill Clinton about that $500,000 check he got during that period from the Russian bank. The Russians were very tight with the Clintons, and the Clintons sold them our uranium for nothing, as Peter Schweitzer revealed for us, for Breitbart during the campaign. Sold our uranium for nothing. You know what a big deal that is? You know what you can do with uranium? And she gave that to the Russians, who are supposedly our big enemies, and yet, it's like Saul Alinsky, accuse the other side of doing what you yourself are doing.
Right.
And so that's where this whole Russian nonsense comes from. Mm-hmm. And thanks to our reporting and the reporting of many others, we are now finally able to see that the Russia thing is a complete and utter hoax. And Mueller's really on the run. I don't know what Mueller's going to do. I think he's been discredited. He's got nothing as far as I can tell. But
not only that, he was running the FBI during critical years when all this crap was going down, 2009 through 2013. He really shouldn't even be allowed to look into this right now because he's complicit. He's part of it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, the Clintons were totally in bed with Russia. But the other thing to think about too here right now is, all right, Vladimir Putin. Maybe he's not the best guy in the world, but he is a nationalist. And if we actually have a nuclear war in this country whereby North Korea or Iran or somebody else fires at us, who are our allies going to be? We can't look for our allies in Europe because it's controlled by the European Union, which I think are a bunch of aliens. I have no idea who the European Union even is. We have the Chinese, who are making very strong anti-American plays and, in fact, have North Korea in their pocket and are not doing anything about it, and in fact are actually stoking that situation because it benefits them. So they're not going to help us. Where are we going to get allies from? Maybe Japan, okay? Nobody in South America, nobody in Africa is even capable of helping us because they don't have the resources. So where are our allies going to come from? Perhaps if the United States allied with Russia in such a scenario, we would be able to fend off a big World War III. Mm-hmm. But the deep state and anti-American interests and the Muslim hegemony are trying to drive a wedge between us and Russia because they want to prevent a situation whereby we could ally with them in the event of a war. Because honestly, right now, I think if we were attacked, we would have no allies and no one willing to help us. Wow. No one willing to send us supplies, nobody willing to help us repair all of our systems that would go down in such a scenario. And I think we're very, very close to that. I think North Korea is only one part of it. I think North Korea is allied with Iran.
Patrick, I got to jump in. We're almost out of time. Real quick, plug the website.
BigLeaguePolitics.com. Great stuff. Big League Politics.
Patrick, thank you so much.
Politics.
Patrick, thank you so much.
Politics.
Patrick.